Are you ready to unlock the full potential from your SmartSuite automation? If so, you are going to love this video because we are going to be breaking down all that you need to know about the Find Records action inside of SmartSuite automations. This will allow you to take your SmartSuite automation to the next level. So if that's of interest, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gareth and this is Gap Consulting. Here it's our mission to help you get the most out of your no-code tools. And if you're not already using SmartSuite, what are you waiting for? It is one of our favorite no-code tools, and we're going to be highlighting it here in this video. Now, before I get started, I first want to invite you to join me for some automation training. If you're new to no-code tools in general, or if you just need a refresher here, automation is the thing that's going to allow you to take your workflows to the next level. It's going to do all of that repetitive stuff for you in the background and save you countless hours. Grab my free training at gapconsulting.io/webinar-registration. That is a tool-agnostic training, teaches you the fundamentals of building any kind of automation in no code. But without further ado, let's hop on into my screen. We are going to be using the Sales CRM template. If you're not already a SmartSuite user, go ahead and sign up using our link, and you can install this template within just a few clicks and have access to most of what you see on my screen. I've added a little bit of extra here, which I'll get to in just a moment. Now, here I am in my opportunities table. And so you can see I've got some deals here that we've been tracking across 8 different opportunities. And we've got this nice little stage over here called closed won. Now, the stuff that I've built, I've added some extra flair here. I'm connecting these deals to a region, and you'll see why in my second automation example. And I also have a link to sales managers. I've added both of these tables. So the region here, North America, South America, Asia, Europe, I've got sales managers that are linking to those regions and also linking to those opportunities, as you saw back here. Now, for our first scenario, we're going to imagine a situation where we say, all right, once a week, we're going to come in on, let's say, first thing Monday morning, and we're going to look at all of those stages where we closed a deal and where we don't have an actual close date. So we will say, for example, the close date is blank, therefore it has not been closed out yet. And if we come back over here to stages, we're looking for a scenario where we find that the closed status has been updated so that we have stage of deal closed. So first, let's create a view for ourselves that helps us see this so that we can work with it a little bit more easily. We're going to create a grid view, and we'll just call this sales closed. And I'll just create this view. And here inside of the view, I'm going to add just a couple of fields, only the ones that pertain to what I'm talking about here. An actual close date, and I'm also looking for the stage. So let's bring the stage on here. So wherever we see the closed won, but no date, that's what we want to find inside of our automation, and then we want to update that stuff. So for example, we would say closed won and closed won. So in this case, if we were running the automation, we would have these 2 different scenarios that did not yet have a close date that we would want to update. So let's go ahead and go into our automations in SmartSuite, and we'll look at our first example. This is finding closed opportunities right here. So we can set this up to work at a scheduled time. We have a lot of flexibility. I'm not going to go into full detail here, but we could say on a certain day of the week at a certain time, we want to run this automation like clockwork. Next, and this is where we're focusing on this video, we're looking at the Find Records function. So this is an action step that we take inside of SmartSuite. And I first need to draw your attention to this toggle right here. Are we finding multiple records or a single record? And the way you answer this question will determine what kind of functionality you get in the next components of the automation you're building. Here's the big difference. If I'm finding multiple records in my automation, I can update those records. I can find a big list of records and update information for all of those records. However, I cannot do anything with the list of records that I found in the Find search. At least not yet. SmartSuite is ever evolving. I'm sure that at some point we will be able to take that information and actually use it in a more meaningful way. But for now, we cannot use the information we find in multiple record search. Now, the other option, of course, is that we toggle this on to find a single record. And for our purposes, we're going to be demonstrating this in our second example, where you can actually use the information that you found in your search and apply it to stuff in your automation in future or subsequent action steps. For our first example, though, we're just looking for all those opportunities that meet our criteria. So what were those criteria? Well, let's set up our conditions. Number one condition is that the stage right here is equal to closed won. The other criteria simultaneously must be that the actual close date is empty. If there is information already in the close date, we've already run this automation. So right here we've said, all right, we're looking for everything in the last week that has been shifted over to closed won that has not received a close date yet. Now, in our next step, we can update those records. So clicking on into our third step, you see that we can say, hey, we are going to update the records that came from our search in the previous action step. And here we are going to update the actual close date and fill it out with some information. We want to replace it with today. Now, I want to point out to you that you have a lot of options here inside of SmartSuite using relative dates. I could say a year ago, a week from now, a few days from now. I can add days from or take them away from the relative date that we're using here. So we have a lot of flexibility, but for our purposes, I'm just going to plug in today's date. So here we are. We've demonstrated now how we build an automation for finding multiple things, and let's give this a test. So from here, we can go ahead and toggle this on to find closed opportunities. And once that's turned on, now we can come back and take a look at what we would expect to see happen. We're going to perform a search for any records that we can find in the opportunities that are closed-1 that do not have an actual close date. As you see, there are two records, the Mola Solutions here, and then also the Recode installation. We should find both of those and update them with the date that is relative to when the automation ran. As of today, that is April 23rd. Let's go ahead and pop back into the automation now, and we will schedule it for a time that is slightly in the future of this very moment. I'm going to go ahead and save this automation and pause the video here. We will wait for it to operate and to run in the background. It's going to take a few minutes for the time to actually get to 10:45. We'll come back here and take a look at the automation run once it's performed its function. Now let's go ahead and try to test this automation to make sure that it's working as expected. In order to do this, what I've done is I've gone in and changed the trigger here. So I set it up to be a one-time event that triggers at a time that was just after when I was ready for this thing to perform. And so then I had to wait just a few minutes for this to automate, and we can go in and actually see the history here, that we had a successful run, break down the details as well, where we see that it found the two records that we identified here, and then it went ahead and updated those two records as well. We can go ahead also back out of this and look at the actual data itself in the table, and we can see that now, as of recording, it's April 23rd. I have updated these two values, and this was done by that automation. Therefore, proving that we were able to properly get the results that we were anticipating from our find action. Now let's dive into our second example, where we're going to look at a slightly more advanced automation that only finds one record and then uses the values of information that it finds in multiple or subsequent steps within the automation. First, let's think through how the automation will work in general. I'm going to go back to another view of my opportunities here, scroll all the way to the side, and you'll see that I've got these regions for the different deals or opportunities that we're working on. Now, what I envision for this automation is that when we update a stage from wherever it is to being closed or won, then we want to find who's in charge of this region. Who is the sales manager in charge of this particular area? Because they need to be brought into the opportunity now. Maybe we have a process inside of our organization that the sales manager does not need to be connected to a deal until it's crossed the finish line, and it's at that point that they're going to get involved and maybe tie up some of the loose ends. So imagining this kind of a scenario, we don't want to link to the sales manager until the deal is won, but we don't know what sales manager it is unless we know who is assigned to that region. And so flipping into region over here, we see again that we have the different regions listed out and they're linked to the sales managers. Over here on the sales manager side, as I pointed out earlier, we have the regions linked to them here. And so we can perform a find action based on this linked relationship. So now that we've identified this automation, let's go ahead and take a look at how we can build it. Clicking in here, I'm going to click down to automations, and this is called Find Sales Manager. So again, we said, well, when the record is closed, so we've said, hey, we moved it to closed 1. Now, in our next step, we know that we're going to find the sales manager based on the region in the record. So of course, we need to also ensure that the region is not empty. If there is no region, then how can we do the next step of the automation? So these are our two conditions. It's been moved to closed and the region is not empty. Next, we're going to drill into the action step of finding one record in the sales manager's table. So notice that this is toggled on here. We're finding a single record. And if you recall, the big difference is that means that we can use the information that we find in the single record search in the subsequent steps of the automation. So here I'm saying, find me the sales manager. Only one single record. Find me that sales manager that has the region that we identified in the trigger. So if we were to flip out of this automation and just take a quick look at what we're looking for in the background, we're saying, look at all these sales managers here in the sales managers table and find me the one sales manager that has the region that exists in the opportunity. So for example, if we come back here, we look at this opportunity, imagine that this one gets marked to 1. We're going to find the sales manager who has Asia as their region. So we're going to look inside this sales manager's team and find this sales manager right here, the Gareth Pronovost right here that's been assigned to Asia. Now, as the final step in our automation, we want to use that information that we found. And that's exactly what we do because we only found the one record in our find search here. So now we can update the records. We can update the record from the opportunity, the one that triggered the automation, and we're going to update it and link it to the sales manager that we found in the previous step. So you'll see here that when we're working in subsequent steps, after we've already performed the search function, we can go back here and we will see find one record in sales manager. We can access the data that we found in that record. This particular function right here is not available to us currently if we're looking for multiple records in our find record search. In this example, we only use the one, so we can access it right here and we can bring in the sales manager ID to perform that automation link. Let's give this one a test after we turn it on here. I'm going to back out and in my opportunities, I'm going to scroll on over and mark this as 1. We know that when we do this, we're going to look for the sales manager who is in charge of Asia, which we know to be Gareth, myself, and we will expect to find that that is now linked to the sales manager when the automation is done. Let's mark it as 1, sit back, and watch the automation take place. Within just a moment, we found that the sales manager was appropriately linked here as expected. Of course, we would want to go back in and look at the automation run itself to verify that it performed all of the steps correctly. And of course, we will see exactly that. It triggered off of the updated record, it found one and only one record, and then it was able to take that information when updating the triggering record. So there you have it, performing a find record function inside of your SmartSuite automations, as you can see, really allows you to take your automations to another level. I hope you got a ton of value from this video. Any questions you have that we did not address, of course, drop them below. And in the meantime, keep on building.